Today, I'll be previewing Petty GMS Motorsports as we head into the 2022 season. Let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. Let's go into the backstory of Petty GMS Motorsports. Now, originally they were going to be two separate identities, two separate Cup Series teams. It was going to be Richard Petty Motorsports originally, and it was going to be GMS Racing. But about a week ago, it was announced that Rich Petty Motorsports and GMS would be merging, and GMS had basically bought both charters and bought the organization for $19.1 million. They bought Andrew Mercy's $19.1 million from Medallion Financial. They bought into the team, and they'd be merging with RPM, and now they'll be called Petty GMS Motorsports. Richard Petty is going to be the chairman of the organization going into 2022. Mike Beam is basically going to be the president of operations of the team and basically will run the operations of the whole organization while also focusing on his truck series program, which is just made a two-truck organization next year. And he also will run other organizations as well, while Brian Moffitt, who basically is the father of Thad Moffitt, will basically run the sales in the organization as well. On top of that, they are going to run out of the GMS stable in Statesville, North Carolina. And like I said, they were able to acquire two charters for the 2022 season. And they also will have an alliance with RCR going into 2022. So this is very, very exciting news. And like I said, I'm extremely excited about that. But now let's jump into the team preview. The first driver that will be driving for Petty GMS Motorsports in 2022 is going to be Erik Jones. He'll be driving the 43 for Petty GMS Motorsports in 2022. It was already announced that he would be driving the 43 for 2022 a couple months ago back in August. It was already announced, but we did not know what sponsors were going to be sponsoring for next year. Focus Factory is going to sponsor him for 26 races in 2022 in the Petty GMS organization, and Air Force will also sponsor him for 3 races in 2022. So far he has 29 races banked for 2022 at this current moment, but I would expect that at some point they will be able to pick up for those final few races. And what this means for Erik Jones is that 43 car is definitely going to be better next year. And it's going to be better on the crew chief side of things too, because Dave Ellens, who was a crew chief for No Racing last year in the NASCAR Xfinity Series at Junior Motorsports, he will be moving up to the NASCAR Cup Series in 2022, and he'll be the crew chief for Erik Jones at Richard with Petty GMS Motorsports. I'm very, very excited for Erik Jones going into 2022. Erik Jones in 2021, he had a pretty solid and a pretty good season as a driver. He was able to have 6 top 10s on the season, though he didn't end up finishing 23rd or 24th in the points, considering the Petty was not really that great last year. This, honestly, is a pretty big upgrade in my honest opinion, and I think that he will do better next year in 2022. The fact he has funding going into the Petty GMS 43 car going to next year, I think is going to be a huge benefactor. Plus, he does come from the Joe Gibbs Racing Development Program, which I think he kind of got shafted from that group. But I think he's a driver that I think is about to hit the prime of his career in his NASCAR Cup Series career. He's only 25 years old technically, so he's a driver that is still very, very young. But like I said, I think he's a very, very talented driver who has a lot of years ahead of his career. And I think that for many, many years to come, especially with this team, I think he could lead this team to a really, really bright future, and I think that he will do very, very well. What are my expectations for him going into 2022? I think the expectations, Erik Jones going to 2022, is they need to improve from what they did in 2021. I think the goal is to try to finish in the top 20 in points. I don't think that they are going to win races in 2022. I just think it's going to take some time for this team to really, really get good, at least the 43 side of things. But I do think long-term and way down the road, I definitely could see him becoming a driver that becomes very, very solid and makes the playoffs, and this car become a winning car once again. But I think for 2022 especially, I'm going to keep my expectations really, really low for him. I think the goal is to finish in the top 20 points, try to get some top 5s, some top 10s, and try to most consistently try to finish in the top 15 as consistent as possible. But at the end of the day, try to finish in the top 10 as much as possible and improve on from 2021 to 2022. And like I said, I think Erik Jones is a driver that's going to do a lot next year with Richard Petty Motorsport, with Petty GMS Motorsports going into next year. And the fact that he actually has funding behind him is going to help this team as well going into next year and having a bigger Chevy backing next year. Because Richard Petty Motorsports last year, they really didn't have a major Chevy backing. The fact that GMS has a massive, massive Chevy backing, who's had a lot of backings from Chevy, and they're also technically part of the Driver's Edge program, but Chevy's going to back that too for many, many years to come. That's going to be really, really huge for that. So I'm really excited for Erik Jones being at the scene once again next year, and I think he's going to do very, very well. The second driver that's going to be a Petty GMS Motorsports going to 2022 is going to be Ty Dillon, who will drive the 42 for Petty GMS Motorsports in 2022. Now, originally, they were going to use the number 94 when it was just GMS Racing, but with them merging, they made the decision to take the Chip Ganassi Racing 42 number and move it back into the Petty the Petty GMS Motorsports number at the 42. It makes a ton of sense to just move it to 42 and 43 because you have those identities, and it's going to feel like the richer Petty numbers in there and stuff. And of course, the Petty name numbers and the 42 and 43 are two of the classic numbers. Lee Petty won multiple championships in that 42 car. Richard Petty, I believe, also maybe he got his first or second career victories in the 42 car as well, and ran many races in the 42. So that is technically a Petty brand number as well. So it makes a ton of sense. Next year, Jeremy Donnelly, who's been an engineer at Chip Ganassi Racing, also was kind of funny, is that Jeremy Donnelly was the engineer for this 42 car for Chip Ganassi Racing. So it's definitely really kind of like a little bit of a closeback, but it really isn't at the same time too. Jeremy Donnelly had been an engineer for the 42 car. He'd been a crew chief for Kyle Larson, been a crew chief for Matt Kenseth, was a crew chief, I think, for Juan Montoya, and also was a crew chief, I think, for Ross Chastain this year as well. So he's going to be moving over and working with this team going into next year. Sponsorship has not been announced for Ty Dillon going into next year at this time, but I would believe that he most likely will bring some of the funding and sponsors he has. I think Bass Pro Shops most likely will sponsor him in 2022 at this organization. Because since basically Bass Pro Shops does sponsor multiple organizations. They've sponsored a lot of teams in the past. They sponsor Mark Truex Jr., they sponsor Ty Dillon, they sponsor Noah Gragson, they sponsor Austin Dillon, and I would think that they would also sponsor Ty Dillon in the NASCAR Cup Series in 2022 at this organization. Now, what are my overall expectations for Ty Dillon going into the 2022 season at this organization? Honestly, I don't really have the highest and biggest expectations for Ty Dillon going into next year, and the really big reason why is because honestly, to be perfectly real with you, he's really not done a lot in the NASCAR Cup Series. He does have one Xfinity Series win at Indianapolis Road Course and a fuel-shortened victory in 2014. But, and I will say this, he had some really strong performances in the NASCAR Xfinity Series in 2021. I know his time at Joe Gibbs Racing in Xfinity 2021 really was not overall the most impressive, but you have to remember that they probably gave him the short end of the stick in those specific races. And on top of that, at the same time, too, you have to remember there that he had a couple times where he had mechanical problems. He had issues at Las Vegas where he got involved in a wreck with Bradley Herbst. He also had issues at Talladega where he got involved in the big one, and also had mechanical problems at another, I think it was Las Vegas, well, he had mechanical gremlins in the race. So he really never had a race, and also tried to be basically a hero at, I think it was Daytona in the season opener race. They gave him a lot of super speedway races for him to run, so he really kind of got the short end of the stick, so he wasn't really able to prove it. But with our motorsports in 2021, he was really impressive. He got a couple top 10s in the 23 car, which had a multiple rotation of drivers. So for him to get a top 10 with that, especially no practice qualifying, I thought was really, really impressive. And I remember the second time we came back to Las Vegas and Jordan Anderson Racing Equipment, he ran extremely well. So I think that he's a driver that might impress a lot, but I'm not expecting too much. I think the goal for Ty Dillon is try to finish in the top 20 as much as possible. I know for him, his expectations are really, really low. But at the same time, I'm not really keeping my expectations too high for Ty Dillon because I want to keep it a little bit muddled. But if he ends up finishing the top 10 a lot, ends up finishing the top 20 a lot, I will be very, very impressed. But I will say I'm glad that Ty Dillon is getting another chance in the Cup Series once again. He kind of unfortunately got screwed after Germain Racing shut down, and they ran part-time in the Cup Series with Gaunt Brothers Racing, and I think he really got kind of the short end of the stick. But I'm really happy that he's getting another opportunity in the Cup Series again in 2022, and hopefully he'll do well next year. I think that this move makes a ton of sense for the organization. Like I said, I'm very excited for this team going into next year. Like I said, next year, I kind of expect this team to improve a little bit. I think that they will overall, the team consistently will be a top 15 to top 20 team most week, at least for Erik Jones. Ty Dillon, I think, will do pretty well next year too at specific points. But I don't think that they will be a championship contender, at least in the first year. But I do think as years progress and the years gone on with this partnership, I think that this could be and one thing that really, really is good for this overall is Richard Petty, his team, has a direction they can go to. they have not had a direction in such a long time. So they have a direction, an upward direction, and they were really starting to have an upward direction. And with the sponsorship announcements, they are really starting to have an upward direction. But I think that with this overall move to merge with a team, I do think that going into 2022, I do think overall that they are going to improve next year in some aspects. I do think in 2023 they even will get better. I think that they're a team that is going to have a big upcoming long-term down the road. The biggest thing long-term for this team, though, is how long will we see both these drivers in the car? Because is Erik Jones going to be in this car long-term, or are they eventually going to go with somebody else? That's one thing that is going to have to be determined at some point long-term down the road. But for me, like I said, I'm really, really excited for this team. When they announced this, I was really, really shocked when they acquired this team, and we really didn't know much about it. But the fact that we have a direction for Richard Petty's team, because again, I think most people know that they have not been a competitive team in NASCAR in nearly almost 4 decades, and a lot of people wanting this team to be competitive, and it's been very, very frustrating for them not to have a direction. But the fact now that they have a direction and know what they're doing going into next year is really, really awesome to see. So like I said, I'm very excited for this team next year. And I do think that going into 2022, I think we're going to see something really, really special from this team. And we'll see some good stuff. So hopefully they will do very, very well next year. I'm wishing the best of luck. You've got 2 drivers, like I said, that are probably about to hit the primes of their careers. Dillon is in his late 20s, and Erik Jones, who will be 25 or 26 going into next season. And get this, Erik Jones has been in the Cup Series for nearly 5 or 6 years, and you got Dillon, who has quite a bit of Cup Series experience as well. So they're 2 drivers that are technically kind of veterans of the sport. So they've been in sport for quite a few years in the Cup Series. Despite both those drivers being in their 20s, these guys have been in the Cup Series of points for 5+ years. So I'm wishing them both the best of luck, and I'm wishing to see them the best of luck overall, and I'm excited to see what this team is going to do in 2022. So, anyway, that is my team preview for Petty GMS Racing going into the 2022 season. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, turn notifications on, so you be notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support my page as well. Let's get you below for that, and comment your thoughts on today's video. What are your expectations for Petty GMS Motorsports going into the 2022 season? Do you think this team is going to improve from 2021, or do you think this organization is going to not do as good as they did in 2021? Let me know in the comments below. I've got the Truck Series predictions video that's going to be dropping here tomorrow on the channel, so I hope you all can check that out. There'll be 10 predictions for the 2022 season, and you'll see that on my channel tomorrow on the F1 Championship race. But anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys next time for some more great and awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.